An interesting thing to think about is what 3 words would your staff or your colleagues use to describe you? They would come up with words in a nanosecond. I just wonder if they're the same 3 words that you would like them to use to describe you. What 3 words would you like them to use to describe you? So the challenge is to live the reputation you want to have. So once you work out what those 3 things are that you'd like people to say about you, you have to make sure your behaviour is congruent with that. That you are positive, that you do get things done and you don't talk about people behind their backs. Now about a month later I was back working at one of the schools in the cluster and I bumped into one of those teachers and she said, "I love that activity, live the reputation you want to have, Steve." I said, "Well, that's great, what did you come up with?" She said, "Well, the 3 things that I want my students to say about me at the end of the year is that I take a genuine interest in them, I'm really caring. The second thing I want them to say about me is I make learning interesting and fun. And the third thing, I want them to see me as someone that's always fun to be around." Can you just wait a second, Steve? Just wait a second. Will you kids be quiet? Shush, shush, we're in a meeting, shush. Now, as I was saying, Steve, I want to be known as someone that's always caring about the kids, someone that makes learning interesting and fun, and someone that's always fun to be around. See, it's not quite as simple as you just write things down. You have to behave that way if you want to get that reputation. So teamwork is just essential in workplaces today, and high-functioning teams make all the difference in organisations. But often when I go into organisations and we talk about teamwork, I see this face. Because people say, "I don't want to go to your stupid meetings that go round and round in circles and not make any decisions. Just leave me alone. I don't want to be part of your teamwork." So it's really important that we focus on what are the benefits of working in a team. Now, one of the things that frustrates me is when the presenter out the front asks a big question like that and then wastes half an hour going around all the different groups asking what are the benefits of a team. Ultimately, they can be summarised as 3 areas. It should be more efficient to work in a high-functioning team. We should save each other time by sharing the load and contributing to others. The second thing, it should be more effective to work in a high-functioning team. Because each of us bring areas of expertise and experience to the table, the theory is that a rising tide floats all boats and we help each other to become more effective. And the third benefit of a high-functioning team is it should be more consistent. We should operate on the basis every student in our school deserves a good deal. It doesn't matter which class they're put in, it doesn't matter which teacher they're put with, they deserve a good deal. So I've come up with a model for high-functioning teams. Now it's a simple model. I'm from North Queensland after all. I like simple things, so it's only got 4 components. But if you miss any of those 4 components, your teams won't achieve their potential. Now the first aspect of the model is it's got to have a clear purpose, a clear reason for existing, and people have to buy into that purpose. The second component of the model are clear processes. So processes are the nuts and bolts of how do we function together. How often do we meet? How do we make decisions? How do we record those decisions? How do we make sure that we get some traction? The third aspect of the model is about trust. To have trust that other people in the team are also bringing their A game and contributing to the outcomes that we're all aiming to. If we don't trust other people are bringing their A game, why would we bother investing our time in this teamwork? And finally, I believe for teams to be high functioning, someone's got to take a lead. Someone's got to keep us focused on track so we don't go off on a tangent and talk about all those other things that we could be focusing on. Now, as I mentioned, if you're missing out on one component of that, then a team's not going to achieve the potential. If you're missing out on trust in the middle of the model, the whole thing becomes very fragile. We're not going to talk about the elephant in the room if we don't have the trust within our teammates. We're not going to share our resources and our great ideas if we don't have trust that other people are also willing to do that. Now, a symptom that that's happening in your workplace is the staff car park conversation. If the staff car park conversation lasts longer than the meeting, it's probably because trust is missing. If, however, the purpose is missing out of your teams, if people don't buy into the benefits of teamwork and what's in it for them, then a symptom that is happening is they'll arrive late to meetings, or they won't come at all. That will be the afternoon where they have all these appointments that keep appearing because whatever they're doing is more important than the team meeting. If you're not clear on the processes part, it will feel like Groundhog Day all over again. Have you ever been in meetings where you feel like, we've already talked about this, we talked about this last month, why are we going round and round discussing this again? That's because your processes haven't been nailed down. You haven't been clear about how do we make decisions, how do we ensure we get traction in those decisions and we get some implementation. And finally, if we don't have someone taking a lead in our teams, we can talk about all sorts of things. We'll start our meetings late, we'll run over time, we won't stick to the agenda, we'll go off in all sorts of different tangents and our wheels will constantly be spinning, we won't get any traction. That's because someone's got to take a lead and keep us focused. We want to talk about how do you thrive in times of change. Now, ultimately, change is necessary when there's a discrepancy between what is happening now and what is desired to be happening within the environment. Now, when a change is announced, doesn't matter who's come up with the concept of the change, we ultimately have three choices. The first you can get away with for a little while. The second is you can put all your time and energy into protesting against this change. I believe the best thing that we can do is get involved in steering that change to have it be of benefit to you. I only ever taught one Year 1 student, Colin Arthur Williams. Now, on one occasion we'd organised for the fire brigade to come to the school to do their stop, drop and roll safety message. Now, at the end of the presentation, Colin said to the officer in charge, Mr. Fireman, when you leave, can you please put on the lights and sirens? So at the end of the session, I dutifully lined up all the kids along the front fence of the school, ready to wave as the fire engine came past. And as they came around the corner, we could see the lights come on. We could hear the siren. So we started to wave as the fire engine pulled across in front of the school. But all the colour dropped out of my face because hanging on to the back of the fire engine with one hand and waving with the other was my mate Colin. There are 8 pubs in the main street of Collinsville, and interestingly enough, there are 2 newsagents across the road from each other and owned by the same family. But I walked into one newsagent and I said, could I have today's Courier Mail please? To the lovely lady behind the counter. She said, no mate, sorry, sold out. Try across the road. So I picked up my money and I started to leave the shop. You know that periphery vision thing that we have? I noticed that she'd left the shop as well and she was starting to come across the footpath. I walked into the other newsagent across the road and there's no one behind the counter. You know what happens, don't you? She's walked in behind the counter and then turned to me and said, can I help you? At about that stage the banjo started twanging and it was time to leave Collinsville. These are some Year 10 students doing a car wash and they wash the staff cars as a fundraiser for one of their trips. If you look a little bit more closely in the photo, they're actually using the green scourer side of the sponge to wash the principal's car. Now, to their credit and their persistence, they went and asked the principal, Mr. Wickens, for the $40 Hong Kong. It's only about $6 Australian for a car wash. He respectfully declined to pay that $40 because it cost him $4,000 to respray the bonnet of his car and get the swirl marks out.